You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
I wanted Africa to be globally competitive in tech and not just limit ourselves to entertainment and sports. Technology is one of those things that I found that anybody that really applies themselves to it has the right knowledge to be competitive. How do we leverage AI to solve our massive problems in Africa? How can we be part of the story of AI? What if there's a tool that allows people to build comic books? I say, why comic? Because Africa never visualized stories. We have more stories to tell than anywhere else in the world. Or at least allow people to create their own comic. Then we built the modern version.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we explore the ideas, innovations, and strategies that are unlocking Africa's economic potential. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest questions facing the continent right now, which is artificial intelligence, AI. Not whether Africa will use it, but whether Africa will own it. Because if the infrastructure, platforms, and thinking all live elsewhere, we risk exporting the value of our own creativity and talent. Today's guest is Amadou Daffe, CEO and co-founder of Gebeya, a Pan-African tech leadership company building talent clouds, digital marketplaces, and now AI-powered tools to help African builders turn ideas into real products. Amadou, welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Tessa.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. And as you know, I always like to start with the person before the platform. So I was wondering, was it a personal or professional experience that led you to start Gebeya?
90% personal, 10% professional. Professional because I was my trade is technology software engineer. Went to school for that. Got bachelor's, master's in the US for that. Worked for major companies, including GE, back in the US. Work up the ladder, the American sort of, so you move up, right? You move up the ladder. My last job was what you call an enterprise application architect, which means really, if there's a firm, technology they run, I was the guy who kind of sort of make sure that it made sense, right? And deliver the services.
Yeah.
So that's the professional part of it. Some like core technologists in a sense. The personal is, my next passion is Africa and its people. At some point, I wanted Africa to be globally competitive in tech and not just limit ourselves to entertainment and sports. Even sports is given it. It is what it is. But technology is one of those things that I found that anybody that really apply themselves to it has the right knowledge and maybe even go to the right school should be able to build upon and be competitive. I said, okay, let me move back to Africa and prove the point. I can't stay in the US and then claim that, how like people say, like people like you, like UK, US, and Africa.
Yeah.
But if you come on the ground, you see what really needs to be done. And that's the personal side that really kept me on the continent building what I built today.
So from this personal and professional experience, what was it specifically that convinced you that Africa's biggest opportunity was the talent in the continent?
Well, every other continent understood that, right? China,
yep.
Right? The manufacturing hub of the world for a while, yeah. Leverage whatever American can throw at them to build products. India, the manufacturing sort of software engineers of the world, right? That's why today the CEO of Microsoft, the CEO of Google are both Indian. I'm just naming a few. Europe is more of the intelligentsia, the kind of diplomatic thing, right? And they fought to conquer the entire world and, colonize it. And I think they took a break while America was sort of building out. In America, obviously, some of the biggest companies in the world today were built by talented individuals. So then it's obvious. Talent would be the way that Africa would be won. So I wanted to focus that. And then how do you accelerate that nuance of talent is the way to go? You have to give technology, because technology accelerates everything. So by combining that belief of talent, the acceleration of technology, that really what gave me that conviction. This is the way to go.
So if we kind of keep on that theme in terms of, I know you often talk about Africa as a reservoir of world-class expertise that has simply not been organized properly. So when did that realization click for you?
Well, it started with me. Like, okay, I'm African. I'm here, given all the privilege. And in a very short period of time, I think 6-7 years after graduation, I was able to move up, right? And I saw also some of the other fellows who picked technology and see that, right? Especially from Nigeria, just in Ghana at the time when I finished college and everything. Those guys, everybody went to engineering, that kind of stuff. So I saw that, we have the same capabilities. Even if you come from a school from a university from Africa, you come up to the West, you'll be able to get there. The question was, obviously, there's enough of us on the continent, but do they have the right opportunity to get there? And if you really look at the history of computing in Africa, computing really started becoming something 15 years ago, right? Because there was no computers, maybe in governments, I don't even know. Computers were sad, right? Everything was very manual, right? So Africa, got into this technology of computing very late in the game, right? Past 15 years. And people that I met when I first started this journey of building this company, who were in college, university especially, if they are 4-year student at the University of Computer Science student, they don't touch a computer till the third year. They were programming on paper, that kind of thing. Right? They didn't have access to computers at home, obviously, because it's expensive or was not available on the market, or two at school. Very few computer science schools had, even if IT school had computers. But even if they did, the computer were not equipped enough for programming. So that was the only thing that's missing. The access to the computer was the only thing that was missing. The brains are there, the subjects are there, math is math, physics is physics, logic is logic. It's just the equipment that was not there. That's when I landed and looked, I was like, oh, that's what's missing.
So if we look in terms of what is missing, but then take it back to the actual company, Gebeya, it started with talent and a marketplace, but I guess you realized that AI had to be the next frontier or something that was missing. At what point did that realization kick in?
Right. So it is a natural extension because we always behind, but any opportunity we get our hands on to accelerate our competitiveness in anything, you need to be conscious of that. So the reason why we started with talent is because, okay, I move back, I'm like, what do these software engineering graduates know in any of the African countries, right? They know the basics of the basics. Okay, what are the jobs out there, the opportunities out there for them to sort of get their career on, right? So you had the concept of cloud. We talked about actually AI back in 2016, because I knew about it and I just wrote what it would do at the time. A particular this back and forth API engineering, all these nuances. So what we did was when we came in and said, all right, we'll get you from where you are and just graduate college, university. We'll make sure that you're a world-class engineer that knows these nuances because that's where the work goes. And we've done it for quite a while, 2 years, a couple thousand people across the continent. And then eventually some of them showed, entrepreneurship skills. Some of them were very, very good at what they did. So we built a marketplace. For those guys that are very good at what they're doing, let's peg you into this marketplace, just like Andela was doing. Sure, you're familiar with Andela. Yeah, right. So we did that very well. We even made millions of dollars around that because we're placing some of the best talent. The entrepreneurship also took off because we had quite a few entrepreneurs who today build companies and raise money. We call it the Gebeya Mafia. We train guys that become entrepreneurs or they become talents that hire money to each other. And then eventually we realized, okay, this is going to be very slow. The reason why is because the majority of African engineers at the time were juniors and very junior. That's why if you know the story of Andela, that was 4 or 5 years back, they reduced, anything that was junior, right? They said, either let them go or whatever, right? They focused on the senior because those are the ones that can market globally. So I was like, how do we then give these opportunities for this junior talent, right? And then 3 years ago, AI started knocking. This is an equalizer. So what does the developers do? You give them specs, they understand it. Maybe they're lucky to work with a UX, UI designer, product owner, that kind of thing, to build something. And that process is very, especially if you have a customer, you need to interact with, it's very long, and you need to really have experience. I mean, you have to have built so many projects to really get where you are. I said, all right, what if we can piggyback on this AI stuff, right, very early to see how do we accompany or at least make these developers more productive. If I'm building a web application, the website of it should be built in a week, right? The backend and this stuff can take longer, right? Because you have to consider a few things, integrations, database, security, and all that stuff. But the front end side should be very quickly. And then that's what happened. That's really what said, now we have an opportunity to level up these junior developers to at least do 50% of what is required from an experience perspective done by the AI. They'll now focus more on the nitty-gritty of making it work or improving or even completing the entire project. So that's how the natural evolution happened.
So if we look closer at AI, as it is extremely topical and relevant at the moment, everyone is talking about AI as a productivity boom. I know you've warned that Africa could still export most of the value. What does that risk look like in practical or economic terms for the continent?
Well, I don't necessarily believe that it's exporting anymore, because those guys who actually need this stuff are building AI to do that. Meaning the concept of BPO and outsourcing, in my opinion, in the next 5-10 years, you don't need a human being per se. You may need a human being to build you the AI agents to do it, but you don't need a human being. You'll see it decline in India, which was the main outsourcing hub in the world, right? I think that the way I'm looking at it is, how do we leverage AI to solve our massive problems in Africa? Instead of exporting, let's keep this thing going here. How can we be part of the story of AI? Okay, now economically, how does it work, right? Let's stick to the application layer, not necessarily the language model layer, the infrastructure, the chips, and electricity. Let's just stick to the application layer. What is the most popular or effective communication tool that Africa can use? Where's the person of business in Africa right now, in your opinion?
Probably WhatsApp.
Bingo. Bingo, that's it. There's nothing else. As a matter of fact, governments officials will send you files on WhatsApp. Businesses will do everything on WhatsApp. Why? Because they alleviate the barrier of even typing.
Yes.
If you have families like mine, they'll send you voice, they'll send you pictures, right? So, there was no marketing campaign for WhatsApp. People just saw it and ran with it. People just solve very specific problems. Right? And if you look at the nature of AI, you can look at it and say, what if AI knows our language? Have a very simple interface, can do voice, can write back, can handle a few things. It's a clear adoption, which means any sector or any industry in Africa where we play in, AI can mix us, 100 times better. Let me give you a very good example. In Ethiopia, for example, we have about four or five cardiologists in the entire country, close to 130 million people. So, what will be more beneficial? Trying to keep on getting doctors that eventually leave the country, right? Because they also, even Nigerians, they don't want to leave it because of the pay. Or say, let them go. But in the meantime, can we get AI cardiologists? Because we still need to make sure our population is taken care of. You know what kind of economic effect it has? You have, let's say, 100 cardiologists built on a model that fits the population, the DNA things, everything of a country. You'll definitely even alleviate that sort of within your budget, some constraint you had about, healthcare. So that's my concern. It's no longer exporting. How do we solve very quickly some of the fundamental problems? Healthcare, give you one. Education. We should have AI agents for students because our kids don't have classrooms. They don't have teachers, or, whatever that is, right? Agriculture, the farmers can be better. So that's how I'm looking at it. Economically, it can really transform the continent by filling in the gaps where we've been trying to get forever. We get aid, right? Those three sectors, healthcare, agriculture, education, we always have aid. Nobody cracked it in Africa. Nobody cracked the educational system in Africa. It's always gaps. Same as agriculture. We can't feed ourselves. That's what people say. Healthcare is worse. So that's how I see it.
So you touched on, I guess, healthcare, agriculture in terms of some of these sectors. Which sectors would you say across the continent could be vulnerable to becoming just users of AI rather than builders of it?
Education. I mean, healthcare, because it's very difficult, it's not an easy sector, right? There's so many things involved there. Education, kids are reading books, They get a hold of an AI agent to just be consumed. It's like gaming, right? It's very easy to adopt. It's accessible on the phone. You make a course, whatever the kid wants to do, especially if the language model or the AI agent was built abroad. Anything can be pushed through that. And so what I would wish for is, we build this language model, the contextual per country, per education. For example, your education system is very much different from the education of Ethiopia, because I believe, or at least I know, that the educational system in Nigeria was inherently built initially by UK, from the UK, right? Inherited that way. Ethiopia never been colonized. The educational system, so it's being, they're winging it as we go, right? Hoping that at some point, right? But now with this language model that you can sort of build in country and saying every kid in Nigeria, every kid in Ethiopia must have a device that they can access the learning part of education, not the social part, but the learning part. I think we'll be able to solve that problem in the next 2 to 3 years, because this is a mandate. This is the president or Minister of Education making a mandate and this needs to happen. So knowledge, is it democratized? It depends on where the knowledge coming from. Is it contextualized within the country? So we need to watch out for that. You can't just have these big donors come in and say, oh, let's give you an education, push it through using your traditional big language model, already been contextualized for, that kind of thing, rather than what is the Ethiopian kids needs to learn today, or what is the Nigerian kids needs to learn today.
So if we keep to the theme of, say, education and teaching, I know you talk about teaching founders to think in workflows, logic, and systems, but what does that mindset shift look like for a non-technical entrepreneur?
Actually, it's even better, because that entrepreneur who doesn't know anything but building an app now this is empowered. They don't even need the developer if they know exactly what they want, because the tools are there. I've heard that there's a tool, I don't want to promote anybody here right now, workflow. So every entrepreneur has a business, has a workflow, right? Let's say you sell something, your workflow. In 10 minutes, you can have an entire AI agent that manages your workflow. Of course, you can have a person who comes in and makes sure it's up and running, tweak it and everything. But those are the ones who are going to win. The people who are not technical. The people who are not a graphic designer. Remember last year, if you needed a logo, you need a graphic designer. And you spend time explaining what you want. They bring you something, you don't went back and forth. No, it's just 5 minutes, you can make a decision. Go to Nano Finance, create me a logo based on this concept. Give me 10 options. Narrowing down to this narrative, and 5 minutes later, you got a logo. Now imagine beyond the logo what you can do. Build me a site based off of this logo. Create me a branding guidelines. By the way, give me the go-to-market strategy for this. Right? Test it out. Here's $20. Test it out. Make sure if it works. If it doesn't work, give me the feedback. You can run your entire business technically with this, and it's going to get better and better. The question is now, are those tools or the models or even the data, sovereign to the country? Or we're still going to borrow technology like we've been doing for the past 60, 70 years on the continent?
So I guess for someone who is not a technical entrepreneur, what mistakes do you sometimes see African founders making when they approach AI for the first time?
The first thing is the educational part of what AI is. I think we're not vocal enough about it. We're just listening to what people are saying. We make it an opinion. A couple of, fanatic people talk about how AI is great, but we're not educating what AI is. It's just a tool. It's like saying a computer AI. Every AI agent you work with is just a tool to get you from point A to point B. So I think if we're focused more on educating the entrepreneurs, saying, that $1 million you were trying to raise for seed, and you were saying that the reason why you want to raise it was to hire engineers to build in the app and post it around. Now it can cost you $500 to do that. What do you think it's going to do for the proliferation of entrepreneurs taking more risks? Because one of the biggest barriers of entrepreneurs in Africa is not the ideas, it's not the creativity, it's not the grit. We all have grit. Is access to capital to scale out or even test it out. Yeah. If you're telling me I have to hire a Nigerian developer, $5,000, build me a chatbot customer service thing, and then, I don't have the money, then I'll quit. But now if it costs me $50 to do it, you're opening a can of worms here, right? But what I just said needs to be told to everybody in Africa. You see, then people say, okay, let me go try this tool. Let me try this tool called Dala from Gebeya, or let me try this thing called, Entropic or some of these things. Now, the blockage would be, okay, the lack of Entropic, for example, Claude, if you're trying to use it in some countries in Africa, it blocks you. Like, I can't use Claude in Ethiopia. It just says it's not available to them. So I'm limited. So see the problem there, right?
Yeah.
But maybe somebody else will build a Claude of Africa because the data is there. I'm sure they use some of that data to train it, right? So that's the access. And then the second thing, okay, do I have enough Forex to pay for that $200 in Entropic? No, I don't, but I have Naira. But I still don't want to pay $200 to do certain things. Maybe I'll pay $50. Well, is there a tool out there that does what Entropic does it on the counter? Pay Forex using MTN money, whatever, Flutterwave, to pay for it quickly and build my company with $50 rather than hiring it for $5,000. That's the power, but that needs to be communicated, and that's what's missing right now.
Education seems to be a recurring theme so far. So if you had to design, say, an AI literacy course for African SMEs, what 3 capabilities would you prioritize?
Just the knowledge of it. That's just, what is it? First, what is it? How can you use it? And how can you be better at it? And then one particular one is prompt engineering. Don't even call it prompt engineering. Call it, say, this is how you talk to the AI. Because prompt engineering means this is how you talk to the AI. That course is very powerful. But first course would be, what is this thing? What is it? It's like you're trying to teach someone, freshman, that comes in to want to learn IT. The first thing is you need to teach them about the computer, keyboard, how it works, stuff. Same thing. So teaching them, what is it first? Right? It's very important. Because people hear AI, they think robots, they think it's just a tool. Even a robot is a tool if it belongs to you.
Thank you for sharing that. So I guess if we change how people think, they can build, but they still need the tools and the rails to execute. So let's look at what you've built. I know Gebeya has long focused on unlocking African talents through your talent cloud. How does the Gebeya Dala represent the next evolution of that mission?
Yes. So what I just described is exactly what happened. When there's a couple of what they call vibe coding tool that was born a year ago, like a Lovable, Bolt, some of these guys. Yeah, Bolt was there, but Lovable is really what shook the world because with the connection of the being part of at least first adopter of OpenAI, they were able to build something amazing very quickly. They had brilliant marketing strategy, just put it out there, right? So a year ago we discovered it, so we used it. Given that I still claim this, I have some of the best engineers on the continent because I nurtured these guys for 10 years, can build anything. So we started using Lovable for rapid prototyping, and I ended up paying close to $1,000 a month for the entire staff. It's a big staff and so many people. Just to play with it. I just wanted them to, what I just said, inform them and play with it. And at some point I'm like, wait, why can't we build this ourselves? The engineer said, we can build it. I said, okay, go ahead. They built the version of Lovable in 2 months. Well, the version that was 3 months in when they first, because Lovable is a year old, sorry. The first version of Lovable 3 months in was equivalent to what we built in 2 months. I was like, whoa, okay. Why would somebody use Lovable in Dala versus Lovable in Africa? Well, okay. First, the credit card thing I was talking about, Forex, cost, access, information about knowing what AI is, right? And then most importantly, the languages, right? Not everybody will fluently type in English, which requires that in this prompt platform, right? So what if we can now make different languages? Can I prompt in Yoruba? Can I prompt in Amharic? Can I prompt in Swahili? The guys went crazy and did it, right? So 4 months in, product is amazing. And then we started thinking, my marketing team was jealous. Was like, okay, the engineers are having fun with this stuff. But what if there's a tool that allows people to build comic books? So say, why comic books? Oh, because Africa never visualized these stories. Growing up, we always watched these small cartoons and stuff. We're big fan of Marvel and all that, but we never visualized those stories. We have more stories to tell to the world per country than anywhere else in the world. What if we can create our own comic book? Or at least allow people to create their own comic book. Then we built the module version of comics. So we went from vibe coding to vibe comicing, if you want to call it that way. And then a couple of customers were listening to say, your vibe coding cool is great for apps and stuff, but it's not good for games. I said, why would they want to create games? Because they want to eventually do something with them. Like, oh, we create a module for games. Now people are pushing us. You'll see that probably in a couple weeks. Why don't we create music? I want to create my own tunes on my birthday or something like that. So we started realizing, well, we're onto something. And why is it they want us to do it us instead of going to this big platform? Because one, these platforms are not uniform, meaning they don't have all those modules in one. Each of them are very good at what they're doing. Two, it's too expensive. Three, the credit card. And four, they block us. I was like, this is a great opportunity. So Dala now is progressing to a studio for every kid. I hope that every high school kid get their hands on it. And by default, it's mobile friendly and ready. It's eventually going to hook to all the mobile payment locally. At least we hook to M-Pesa, Telever, some of these guys that are locally are here will hook into all the different mobile payments. So you'll buy your tokens of credit using airtime rather than worrying about a credit card. So that's the natural evolution for Dala. It'll be announced in a few months that it's actually a studio. So for now, we're just building these modules people are asking us for.
So how would you say building this local AI infrastructure changes the economics compared to relying entirely on tools hosted overseas?
It's yet to be proved because the reason why it's cheap right now to run, relatively cheap, maybe not to an African, but to the world, to build almost most of this stuff, creating images and stuff is because one, they have massive compute power that can really commoditize the purchasing of these things, right? It will require three things. One, every African country should have maybe a dozen data centers, right? And each of those data centers must be GPU enabled. GPUs usually either the data center come up with their own and pay for it, or it's the customer. So for example, if I had a data center that was ready, GPU ready, Kenya, I can bring my own GPUs that run potentially my own language model. Or the data center that's there will probably say, you know what, I'll build up a GPU and go from there. That's the first level of barrier to entry right now for that to be economically viable. That's why we plugged into all of these guys, Gemini and stuff, some of the things we do, right? The second level is the language model themselves. So these data centers won't be built in the language. You have to have another, what they call an hyperscalers to build these language models that I would use to create the tools I just mentioned, right? And once you build them, it's going to be costly. It's going to costly eventually. So if you know the story of ChatGPT, OpenAI was running out of whatever infrastructure things and stuff. So Microsoft came and gave them the $10 billion infrastructure sort of investment for them to continue building. Now, they're raising $1 for that. And now the story is no longer even the capacity of the infrastructure, but the capacity of electricity, which now has become another problem that we need to solve. At least in Ethiopia, I think Ethiopia is the most advanced, or at least proactive country in Africa to understand the power of electricity, because you've seen the dam that's been built, right? You've seen, I don't know if you know, but there's 25 Bitcoin mining company in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia has the cheapest electricity apparently in the world. That's why they came here. Yeah. So the country is in a good position, and to have the first very effective, full capacity data center enabled GPUs from the continent. Because no other African country has priority of building power plant for AI. They just do it because they don't have enough electricity for their own citizens, right? I do hope other African countries sees that. But so the whole story is, economically, I don't see it yet. My goal is to make sure we build as many AI agents as possible, as many small language models as possible that still run in the Google Cloud, the AWS, the Microsoft Azure is enough for a while, until really there's a champion like Cassava AI, that's why we partner with them, that really now is willing to build a data center in Ethiopia, or has an enabled GPU center in Kenya that I can go and install myself on. And then obviously they need to be cheaper. Would they be cheaper? I don't know. That's why I say I have no intention. Would they be cheaper than Google? But if they partner with Google, which they did, then obviously they figure out a way to lower the cost. Because if it costs me more to deploy an AI agent in Lagos for certain things, why would I go to them? To go to the big guys in a sense. So it's a hard question to answer, right?
You touched on, I guess, the need of building the infrastructure and ecosystem. On this podcast, we often talk about the payments infrastructure, logistics infrastructure, trade infrastructure. Do you believe AI is maybe the next layer of infrastructure we should be looking at?
Yeah, apparently it's going to be very lucrative if you sell electricity. at least you'll attract data centers. Google will come in and say, all right, you know what, let me build a data center in Namibia because they have power plant, right? They're all looking for electricity, right? And we have to do it fast before they start sending the data center into space, because then we lost the electricity power.
Yes.
From a data center perspective, yes, it can be, those who have the means, they can very quickly proliferate these data centers across the continent because they become nodes, right? The most data centers that really go to Africa or this traffic of the internet, usually generally South Africa. I think Kenya is now getting the thing. I'm not even sure that Northern Africa has this traffic data center nodes. But yeah, so it'll maybe allow continent to have more data center that this traffic, like somebody who's emailing you from New York, that data goes to Indonesia's data center to a node of a cloud and before it comes to me, right? And it goes to Kenya, it comes to me, maybe the latency there would be covered. So that infrastructure can be built. The language model, yeah. We say, I think chips, forget chips, because even if we try to build a chip today, the IPs that's been locked down would make it impossible for any African country to attempt to build a chip. So the playing field right now is language models and AI agents or AI automation, because they only require time. And if we build them quite well and we create adoption, our countries, respective countries, will eventually build those infrastructure we need. Because that's what happened with all of this talk for infrastructure. If it wasn't for the 10, 20, 100 million users of ChatGPT that was, creeping in the past, the first 2 years of ChatGPT, OpenAI would need more compute power, more chips, and actually eventually more electricity. Adoption needed to happen first, right? So I want to see it the other way. Instead of worrying about the infrastructure right now, let me make sure Africans adopt AI agents. If they do, just like they adopted TikTok and some of these things, if they do, then there's a justification. Do we continue letting all that data go out? Or do we say, government of Nigeria needs to build that data center. The language model can be installed in the, local AI agents can talk to. That's how I see it.
What you've mentioned could be described as almost sovereign AI infrastructure, which almost sounds a bit abstract. But for, say, African governments and businesses, what would this actually mean in practical terms?
Like I say, we also talk on WhatsApp. So do our government care that our entire life is on WhatsApp and hosted by Meta? That's the first thing to ask. Like literally, Meta can know what's going on, what will probably happen in Accra in the next month based on just the conversation people have on WhatsApp or Facebook and so on. So where's the data sovereignty about that? People are sharing, like I said, sensitive files. I'm sure if you have a lawyer, they sent you a file that was sensitive before on WhatsApp, right? Yeah. It's worse in Africa. So one, can we even build our own WhatsApp version per country or for the continent? If you show me a government was willing to do that, then the rest is easy. Then you can talk about data sovereignty. If your communication channel still run on publicly available tools that somebody can hack in, that's it. We're not ready, man. Yeah. And even if you wanted to say data sovereignty, and my tool, for example, let's say you're going to use Dala, you want to code. Okay, maybe the data that will be stored locally in countries, your name, your date of birth, and stuff like that. But what you prompted has to go to a language model that sits in the cloud. Which data are you protecting? Is it, sensitive data, or is it, right? Healthcare is the most critical one. I heard that people are using OpenAI, cloud OpenAI. Government decided to do that, to send the data of their patients in country to go to OpenAI. Without having OpenAI, open source version to be running in country with the data center, with the GPU that's required. That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, I agree. I guess in order to achieve something like what we've described requires integrated models and partnerships. So if we look at your partnerships, how critical is your partnership with the likes of Cassava Technologies in solving some of the infrastructure challenges that you've had?
Very critical. The good news then with the like of Cassava AI, they also give you a window to these language models. But at the same time, they have the capability of running them locally, and they have the capability also of keeping the data locally in country. The challenge for Cassava is how fast are they able to build these infrastructure across every African country that needs them. Then the second challenge is how fast are they able to either afford the GPUs or companies like mine affording GPUs to run what we need to do. And the last problem they would face is electricity. Because data centers, they sell electricity. You know, the space your server sits in, that doesn't matter. It's the electricity they sell you. Which African country can they partner with really to upgrade the electric grid, or at least have one isolated for the compute power that they need? That's why they need insane amount of investment. Because I'm not surprised that NVIDIA say Google is there, right? They need insane amount of investment to scale. Because we only want, I bet you in the next 2 years, you'll have thousands of companies like us. Why? Because they're using AI to do what we do, right? Which will allow me to elevate myself and say, you know, let me not play in the AI agent space anymore. Let me go build my own language model. These guys are building these companies we use, right? Right, with escalators. And the Cassava is, okay, we need to make sure we have enough data center covering Gebeya's need, right? Okay, well, which country do we go to that can sell us electricity cheap so we can make margins, right? So it is a very interesting space. At least the good news is everything's moving very fast. Can government catch up to what Cassava wants to do? They need to do a lot of lobbying. They need to make sure they even invest there as much as possible very quickly.
If we go back in terms of the bigger picture, our audience, people who listen, founders, freelancers, operators who want to know what this means for them, what would you say are the new types of AI or native roles that we can expect to emerge from Africa over the next 5 to 10 years?
5 years is too long. Say 24 months stop.
Oh, wow.
Okay. It's moving too fast, man. Remember, ChatGPT was born 3 years.
Very true.
So 24 months, I think the first thing that really people need to pay attention on is prompt engineering, how to talk to AI. Right? I think also there's two kinds of AI. There's physical AI and there's software AI, right? Software AI is the AI agent you use. Computer physical is your robots, your devices and stuff. I think there's a huge opportunity on the device side, the physical AI. Huge, because you can solve so many problems by having those devices doing certain things, solving some of our problems on the continent. Whether you deploy a device to monitor farms or regulate traffic, whatever, right? There's so many things that these young people can. And because of 3D printing and some of these things, you can build your devices very quickly. It's not an issue. And then you can just get open source AI language model to run it with an open source AI agent that runs it. That's a huge opportunity there for those who are more in line with the physical things. But soft things, the sky's the limit. Once you know, remember what happened to us. We solo, we prompted it. We built amazing things from it. That's like, wait a minute. Why do we just need to be prompters? Then we build the same thing, Lovable, this inside. Then we build our own version of Lovable, which is the competition, right? And then it takes us now I'm thinking I can build my own language model. Why do I have to use DeepSeek, Gemini, and all of these guys? Can I build my own? What would it require? Let me just get the best talent in Africa who's AI and put him in a room for a year, pay him good money, and they can build my language model. So from prompting, this is where I'm at today. That's why you're into from just prompting. So I would advise everybody to just be the best prompt engineer possible. You don't necessarily need to speak English with prompts. Find platforms that speak your language if that's necessary. And then build stuff. Build your first something, man. And then the gratification would be like, whoa, I built this. Okay. Then something will happen. Either you say, how can I teach somebody else to build this? Or can I build this to make money? Or what are the different avenues that can take this? It will take you very far once you understand how these things work. But I would challenge people like you to really be more vocal, man, about AI.
Yes.
I think you guys are the key. Because nobody's going to speak on behalf of Africa about it.
I agree. So I guess with that new growth journey, the next 24 months, what role do you see yourself, Gebeya, playing in that journey of adoption or increase of infrastructure of AI within the continent?
Personally, I'll be more vocal, right? I'll be very vocal. That's why I never did podcasting much. I think I did 2 podcasts in my life for entrepreneur. So you'll see me more on podcasts talking about the same thing over and over. The second thing, though, as a company, we innovate by a minute. So we're moving very, very fast. Every time we get denied for a tool that's AI out there, I tell my team, go build it, right? So which we learn something new that we can package it, probably sell, right? We work closely also. We decided to work closely with kids between 14 years old and 20 years old. Just because 14, this is going to be the first experience, about tech, building tech rather than just consuming it. The 20 give them hope to say, all right, now I know how to do this stuff. Can I go out there, work for a company that wants me, or can I work with, can I build my own company? So between being in innovation very, very quickly and doing this, and we also hope, and this is something I really want us to do, is become the first unicorn of AI in Africa. Because they do two things. One, be like, whoa, Africans can build AI and go unicorn. Just like when we first had our first fintech. Remember EnterSwitch?
Yes.
EnterSwitch changed the game for Nigeria. Nobody wanted to invest in Nigeria until EnterSwitch came out. Become $1 billion. Now look, Flutterwave, money point, blah, right? Who's going to be on the first AI company to become unicorn? Doesn't even matter. I just want to be one in East Africa because we don't have any unicorn in East Africa. The unicorn does in Kenya, actually in Nigeria, right? So meaning they started in Nigeria, they said like Andela, some of the right? So by doing that, it's a statement. Therefore, I need to keep innovating, trying to get as many people to use our tools and eventually, get me to 1 million users. My ambition is the next 12 months to get 1 million users on Dala across different modules. And then once we become a unicorn, then it's a different conversation. Yeah, because they changed the entire dynamics even of the country we're in. The prime minister was like, wait a minute, let's accelerate this power thing for, GPUs and data science. Let's invite Cassava to come. You know what I mean? You'll accelerate a lot of things because $1 billion is no joke in terms of valuation of the company.
I agree 100%. And thank you for sharing that with us. Last question.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs, or affirmations that keep us going when times are challenging or when times are good. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
Very simple. Just build. Just build.
Relevant for today, straight to the point. Amadou, that has been a great conversation. I think what I've enjoyed about that is that it's not about chasing the latest tools. It's about building the systems, the local skills, infrastructure, and also ownership. Because when we own the rails of AI, Africa also owns the value. So fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. And it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Thurston. Thank you for having me, man. Bye now.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.